Hey YouTube, this is Fisherman Brian here, and today I'm going to give you a deck profile video. And the deck we're going to be profiling today is Greninja Break. I actually used this deck at a locals tournament today, and I came first place. A little info about the local tournament: it was only a it was only a 6-man tournament. It wasn't League Challenge or anything. And there's only 3 rounds, but the locals attendance were actually of people who have topped events like states and regionals, and they have pretty good credentials. One of them, or 2 of them, you may know if you follow the regionals and states standings. One of them is John Orgel. He's really good. He was a Maryland State champion a couple years ago, and he's topped events. And then there's Patrick Orgel. He didn't play, but he's just another good local person that we have here. So me being a newbie at the game and coming out with a win was pretty cool, even though it was only a 6-man tournament in 3 rounds. So yeah, this build isn't really a traditional kind of build. And traditional, I mean by having auxiliary and some other cards that you typically see in Greninja Break. But I did end up getting the first place win, and I'll explain my choices while I'm doing the profile. So let's get to it. First off, we're going to go with our basic Pokemon in the Greninja line, Froakie. And this Froakie is from the Breakpoint set, and I run 4 of them. Some people run 3 because you only need to have 1 on the in play to evolve into Frogadier, so you can do water duplicates from Frogadier. But I like having 4 just to add to the consistency, just so I have that Froakie inactive as soon as possible. And what makes this guy, well, not makes this guy cool, but a cool move that he knows is Bubble. And basically you flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is not paralyzed. So if you end up having a bad hand, paralyzed is definitely one of the best special conditions you can put on your opponent. And it is a really cool stall card. It has 1 retreat, which is kind of but it does have 60 HP, so that's kind of decent. Alright, then I run 4 Frogadier. Frogadier is the main engine in the deck, really, mainly because of his move. It's called Water Duplicates. It takes 1 water energy, and it states, search your deck for up to 3 Frogadier and put them onto your bench. Shuffle your deck afterward. Now this means that when you do attack with him, you can put up to 3 from your deck onto the bench, meaning you don't have to evolve your Froakies into him. So it's instant stage 1s onto the bench, which makes it easier to put out your stage 2 Greninjas on the field. Possibly your next turn, which would be amazing in most cases. So yeah, definitely run 4. It's just needed. And then I run 3 Greninja from the Breakpoint set. This is known as the Shadowstitching Greninja, mainly because of its first move called Shadowstitching, go figure. It has 130 HP, and it has free retreat, which has come in clutch so many times when I was in this tournament that I played today. Having that free retreat has saved me a couple of prize cards. Believe me guys, it's really good. The first attack, Shadowstitching, does 40 base damage, and it says, until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon your opponent has in play in his or her hand and in his or her discard pile has no abilities. This includes cards that come into play on that turn. Now that is amazing. Oh my gosh, it stops like the Shaman plays. If you're facing the mirror, you're facing against Greninja Break, Shadowstitching is so good. This deck does rely on ability usage, so getting Hex Maniac or facing against a Wobbuffet does hurt a lot. And if you're able to stop your opponent's Greninjas from doing anything to you with Shadowstitching, that's really, really good. So yeah, in a second move, it's called Moonlight Slash. Sorry, takes one water energy and is 60 base. You may return a water energy from this Pokemon to your hand. If you do, this attack does 20 more damage. So basically, instead of 60, it's me doing 80 majority of the time, and that's actually a really good attack for one water energy. But yeah, I run 3. Some people run 2. Some people only run 1. Those people I don't really understand. I can kind of understand the 2-2 line, but I prefer 3 because I like this one far more than the other one we're about to get to. So the other Greninja I'm referring to is the Greninja from the XY set. It also has 130 HP, but it has the ability Water Shuriken. And it states, once during your turn before your attack, you may discard a water energy from your hand. If you do, put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So that includes active and bench. Then it has an attack called Mist Slash. It takes 1 water energy and does 50 damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. That's pretty good. Just doing that solid 50 does help, but I mainly attack with the other Greninja more. So yeah, I really just run just one of these guys just for its Water Shuriken ability. It doesn't have free retreat like the other one. It takes 1 energy to retreat. So yeah, it's good. It's great actually, but the Greninja, the other one, this one, the Breakpoint one, is so much better. But you can't really play this deck with its full power without having at least one of these in your arsenal. So that's why I run just 1. And then I'm going to get to the breaks. Greninja Break came out on Breakpoint, go figure. That's what he looks like. I run 3 of them, and it has 170 HP, and it only has an ability, so no attacks with this guy. But he does take the attacks and abilities of previous evolutions. And what it says, it's Giant Water Shuriken. Once during your turn, before your attack, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may discard a Water Energy card from your hand. If you do, put 6 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Holy crap. Alright, the 3 damage from this guy has come in clutch at times. But 6, just by discarding 1, is so good. It does have to be active, though, for this ability to kick in. While the other, like the Greninja I just talked about, it can be anywhere in the field. But most likely this thing's going to be active anyway. So just being able to do the 6 damage and then attack with this guy, or doing an extra 80, or even the 40 with Shadowstitching, or doing the 50 with this guy, is really, really good. And another cool tip that some of you guys might not know who's new to the deck, you can stack the abilities with this Greninja and the Greninja Break. So you can discard 1 water energy for 30 and put damage on any of your opponent's Pokemon, and then you can discard another energy to do 60 on any of your damage, any of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can stack them to 1, or you can just spread it and then attack. So I've knocked out like 2 or 3 Pokemon with just being able to do that. So that's really, really good. Alright, and then the last Pokemon I run in my deck profile are 2 Jirachi. This is a promo card that's come out recently. You'll find them in Walmart or Target, and you'll see like the card with a pack and a coin, and the pack is like a breakthrough pack. But the main thing about this guy that makes him good is his move Stardust. It takes 1 colorless energy, it does 10 damage base, and it says discard a special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. If you do, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. So if you're facing decks like Nightmarch or Vespiquen Vileplume, this can save you so much It actually saved me in my first round. So yeah, I faced against Nightmarch first round, and I won. Mainly because this guy knocked off a couple of energies. It wasn't because of the damage, it was just because of knocking off those energies and stalling, and then being able to use Greninja's abilities and just sniping people, doing damage at various Pokemon my opponent had on his bench. It's really, really good. Some people, they run one and they might attack another guy, or they might run one with the auxiliary line, but like I said, I don't run the auxiliary line. I don't like it. I find it to be cloggy. So I just opted to run 2 of these guys, and it's worked really well. And it has 60 HP, so it does work with level ball as well. Alright, now to the stadiums. I run 2 Rough Seas. These are my only stadiums I run in the build. I tried fitting in 3 or 2 and like something else, maybe like a Silent Lab or something else, but I really didn't have the room for it. And the 2 Rough Seas is really good. It heals 30 damage from your water Pokemon, or electric if you're running any, but we don't, so just water once per turn. And that's really, really great against the Trevenant matchup, because when people are using Trevenant Break and doing Tree Slam and spreading 30 everywhere, it doesn't really matter because you can just heal your Pokemon 30 on your turn. So basically they did nothing to you. So really good card. I would highly recommend running at least 2. Just fight off other stadiums, and if you're going against Trevenant, it does help a lot. Now for the supporters. I run 3 Professor Sycamore. You should always opt to run at least, very least 2 of these guys, but a lot of decks run 4 because it's arguably the best draw card in the game. But I have a lot of cards to put in the discard pile, and I have other ways of doing that, and so I opted to just run 3 of these. It is really good. It's probably the best supporter, but I just run 3 and it's worked well, so take that as you may. If you don't know, it says discard your hand and draw 7 cards. So yeah, it's really, really good. But I run 3. And then I run 2 N. N recently got reprinted in the Fates Collide set, I believe. And what it states is each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck. Then each player draws a card for each of his or her remaining prize cards. So yeah, this deck is really slow. So majority of the time, your opponent's probably going to have more prize cards taken than you will, at least in the very beginning of the game. This is a really good mid to late game deck. It takes a little while to set up, but once you do, things are awesome from then on. So this card has definitely helped. If they're trying to set up like the turn before, it does ruin their strategies. So yeah, I run 2 of these guys. And then I run 2 Wally. Wally is really only here to try to get that Frogadier out on your turn, on your first turn, going second, just so you can set up a whole lot sooner. That's really the only reason why I run these guys. It is really detrimental, so don't take it as it's not good and you only run it for one reason, so why run it? No, it's really, really good. Like, it's definitely needed. But I found that 2 is suitable. It says search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX, and put it onto that Pokemon. This counts as evolving that Pokemon, so you can't evolve again onto the other Pokemon that turn. Then it says shuffle your deck afterward. You can use this card during your first turn or on a Pokemon that was put into play this turn. That's really awesome. But yeah, I only use it just to get that Frogadier on your first turn. Then I run 2 Fishermen. Fisherman States, put 4 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Now when you're doing the Greninja and Greninja Break abilities by discarding to spread damage, you're going to have a lot of energy in your discard, and this is just a great card to use to get your water energies back into your hand. So good. I thought about maybe just running 1, but I'm glad I didn't, and I ran 2 just to kind of ensure me getting those water energies back, and it so good. I'm saying, like, it sucked to put it, like, I was just thinking the scenario to where one of these would be in my prizes and I only ran 1, so just having that thought kind of made me realize to run at least 2 of these, and it's just really, really good. Run 2. And then for our one of supporters, I run 1 Lysander. I've noticed that a lot of these Greninja builds, players are opting out to using Lysander, and their main argument is because since you can spread damage with Greninja and snipe things on your opponent's bench, it doesn't matter if they're active or not. I do find something wrong with that logic, mainly because of decks like Trevenant, where their abilities only kick in when they're active, so putting them on the bench does help, or it helps with stalling. I actually had to do that against like a buddy I had mentioned earlier, John Orgel. He was using a steel deck and he had Bronzong on the bench, and Bronzong had 3 retreat and he didn't have any energy on it. So I was able, he almost had the game, but I Lysandered the Bronzong up in the active position and I put it up there just to stall out a couple more turns, and it actually helped a whole lot. And I'm glad I run 1. I wouldn't run any more than 1. It's such a good card, but no, 1's good. So yeah. And then I run 1 Skyla. Skyla basically just says, you know, add any trainer card from your deck and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is mainly only used just to search out those last minute trainers that you really need at the moment. I'll get to a couple of those, and I might mention Skyla later about it. So yeah, I only run 1, and that's actually my last supporter. Now for the items, I run 4 VS Seeker or Versus Seeker. I don't know how you would pronounce it really, but I run 4 of these, and these are just used to grab your supporter from your discard pile and put them in your hand. So yeah, if you need that that Fisherman that's in your discard, grab it back, play it. If you need the Lysander to switch one of your opponent's Pokemon, grab it. It just comes in clutch so many times. I've seen people run 3. I like 4, and there's a reason why I put an emphasis on 4 with this particular build. I'll get to that. And then I run 4 Trainer's Mail. Trainer's Mail is mainly just played to help speed up the deck with consistency, grabbing the cards you need. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a trainer card you find there, except for Trainer's Mail. You can't grab it again. But then you put that card into your hand and then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. So if you need to get that supporter, you know, it helps ensure the Wally turn 1. I mean, that was a big reason why I opted to run 4 of these, in case I didn't have a Wally in my hand, but I ended up having a Trainer's Mail in my hand. It'll just help me get that Frogadier turn 1. So yeah, it is really, really good. I'd run 4, and I did, and it won me. It really, honestly, it really helped me win at least one of my games. Alright, and then I run 4 Dive Ball. There really shouldn't be a reason why I run 4 of these. Like, I shouldn't have to give one, but in case any of you guys don't know, it searches out any of your water Pokemon in your deck, and you just add it to your hand, so that any of the Greninja line Pokemon, including breaks. The only Pokemon in this deck that doesn't add to your hand is Jirachi, the Jirachi promo I talked about earlier. This is just for consistency reasons. Definitely run 4. And then I run 4 Level Ball. Level Ball is here to search your Froakies, your Frogadiers, and your Jirachi promos. Some people, they run 2, they might run 3. I run 4 just for consistency and speed up the deck. I mean, if you're facing against Nightmarch, you need to get that Jirachi as soon as possible. If you only have a Froakie on bench or an active, it's really crucial to get that Frogadier. So yeah, I run 4. And then a different tech that I run that most other Greninja decks don't run are 3 Battle Compressor. Now, Battle Compressor is almost MVP card of this whole deck. Basically, I use this to dump the supporter cards that I only run one ofs into the discard. So I run, then I play VS Seeker or Versa Seeker, however you pronounce it, to grab it back to my hand whenever it's needed. Or I use it to ditch water energies into the discard, so I can make my Fisherman active, or not active, but make it more viable to use at the time. So I can just ditch 3 water energies, then play the Fisherman from my hand, and then get those water energies into my hand instead of in the discard pile. It's really, really good. Or if you're facing against a deck that doesn't run special energies, those Jirachis are kind of really pointless. So I use this to ditch the Jirachis into the discard pile as well, so they don't become dead draws. This card is literally broken. It is so good. Search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them, and then shuffle your deck. It is so good, so good. But I run 3. And then for my one-of items, I play 1 Professor's Letter. Professor's Letter says search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck afterwards. It's just to help get those energies faster. That's honestly all it is. It's just to, you know, get your Greninjas doing their abilities quicker, or if you need to attach energy for an attack. This is just a more for sure way of getting those energies when needed. And then I play 1 Energy Retrieval. If you don't have those Fishermans in hand, this card does come in clutch by grabbing 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile, then putting them back into your hand. So yeah, when you're doing all this discarding with the Greninjas and Greninja Breaks, like I've been saying, this card does help a lot, and it did. I'm not lying, guys. This is definitely really good. So yeah, it's really good, but I find just running just 1's fine. Then for my last item in the deck, I run 1 Super Rod. Super Rod says shuffle 3 and any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. Alright, this card I really only used, to be honest, once, and it was mainly just to recycle my water energies into my deck. And so it's basically like I had like a Professor's Letter in hand, and I noticed I needed water energies. I just used this to ditch it, to use this to add them back to my deck. Then I played the Professor's Letter to grab 2 back. It does also help if you need to get those Greninja Breaks or Froakies or Frogadiers that have been knocked out, just to redraw them, or if you're visiting against Nightmarch, just to get those Jirachis back. So yeah, it's good. I mean, if you wanted to take out 1 card in this whole deck, I may suggest this card, but it did come in handy. So yeah, yeah, I just run 1. Then lastly, I run a total of 8 water energies.